So after nearly 15 years as a financial advisor, I have seen time and time again that the people who actually succeed with money, they aren't the ones with like sophisticated, complex strategies, right? They're the ones with simple, boring, and just honestly consistent plans that they can actually stick with. With all that financial noise out there, it is really easy to think that growing money requires kind of like constant attention, right? But honestly, in my experience, it just doesn't. So in this video, which is my very first video, by the way, so welcome, I'm gonna walk you through a straightforward, almost boring set and forget strategy that builds your money over time. We're gonna cover 6 essential elements. And after this video, you will have an absolute clear roadmap to building wealth and growing your money without making your brain hurt. Okay, so our first step is what I call financial self-respect. This is absolutely crucial to growing your money without kind of overthinking it constantly. So look, let's start off by thinking about what most people do, right? They get their salary that lands into their bank account, then they immediately pay things like bills, they buy groceries, maybe, God forbid, get themselves a little treat. And then they try to save whatever's left. But here's the reality. You know, I know, there's always nothing left. We have to be honest with ourselves, right? And that is why so many people struggle with this concept, even when they're earning decent money and they're on decent salaries. And look, I'll be honest with you, this is something that I learned the hard way. In my 20s, I was earning pretty decent money, right? But I didn't feel like I really had anything to show for it. So I sat down one day and was having a look at all my bank statements and what was going on. And I basically realized that I'd essentially spent every single penny that I'd earned for about 3 years straight. And honestly, it wasn't until I kind of completely flipped my approach that things really started to change at all. So instead of treating saving money and savings as a kind of afterthought that left over at the end of every month, I started treating it as my most important bill. So here's what I started doing, and you might want to do the same. So the moment that you get paid, immediately 10 or even better, 20% of your money automatically moves into a separate account before you can spend a single penny on everything else. And what that does is essentially it means that you're paying your future self first. Now, we'll talk about where that money goes in a minute, but this is the first kind of concept that I need you to get your head around. And look, the power of this approach is that it removes all of those problems with like willpower, right? You don't see the money, so you don't spend the money. It's a brilliantly simple tool, and I honestly wish that I could go back and tell my 21-year-old self to start doing this sooner. So this next point is what I call worry-free money. Your emergency fund. Now look, don't click off just yet. I know emergency funds, they're not the most sexy financial topic, but this money isn't about growth. It's not about being sexy. It's about protection. It's just the financial equivalent of sort of like a safety bar on a roller coaster, right? That keeps your money building journey on track, even when life throws you through those unexpected loops. So I was working with this one client who was super proud of his investment portfolio, right? He had thrown in pretty much every single penny he had. And honestly, it was growing really nicely, like fair play. But then his car died, his roof started leaking, and their dog needed emergency surgery, all within 6 weeks of each other. The total cost was almost 10 grand. And because he had focused every single penny he had on building his investments, he didn't have an emergency fund. And what did he have to do? He had to sell his investments during a really, really bad market dip. And absolutely worse still, he missed out on the subsequent recovery in the markets, and it created a tax event. Absolute nightmare. So look, without an emergency fund safety net, any investment strategy is built on pretty much the shakiest of ground. So here is a super simple, really easy to use framework that I use all the time, okay? Aim to save about 3 to 6 months worth of your essential expenses into an instant access account. Now, key phrase, instant access. You need to be able to get your money when you need it. So let's say, for example, if your rent, utilities, groceries, and like basic bills comes to about £2,000 a month, and that's basically what you need to survive every month, you are needing to save, let's say, between 6 and 12 grand. Okay, so next up is something that people massively overlook. It's the power of tax wrappers, okay? The crucial next step is understanding and how to keep more of what you earn. This is what so many people miss. So look, framing this in a different way, right? There is an invisible force going on within your finances right now that could seriously damage your wealth and money building potential. And it's not market crashes, it's not inflation that you see on the news. It's unnecessary tax. Now, if you want the good news first, it's that the UK government has given us some brilliant tools to shield our money from tax. So I had this one guy who had been saving £500 every single month diligently for years. And he had accumulated over £75,000, which honestly, fair play, is amazing. But what he didn't realise was that the account that he kept that money in was taxable. And what that meant is that he was paying tax on all of the interest that he'd gained on that £75,000, when the reality is that he could have sheltered it completely. It was a mistake that was costing him hundreds of pounds each year. So really, there are kind of 2 key tax wrappers that you need to know about, okay? ISAs and pensions. Now, don't get confused by the word tax wrapper, right? It's just financial jargon. Think of it like a sort of special case, like a phone case or something that goes around your money. And what it does is they shield your investments or your money from the corrosive effects of tax. So with ISAs, for instance, you can currently put away up to £20,000 each year. So any growth or income that is within an ISA wrapper, so that could be stocks and shares, could be just a regular cash ISA, there is no tax to pay. It's completely tax-free. So that means no tax on dividends, no tax on capital gains, and no tax on income from interest. So the sort of cherry on the top of all of this as well is that there is absolutely no tax when you withdraw it either. So the general message is ISA equals no tax. Now, in my opinion, pensions are even more powerful, right? Not only is the growth tax-free when it's in the pension, exactly like an ISA, but you also get what's called tax relief on any money that you put in as well. Now, what's tax relief? So tax relief is basically the government saying, thank you for funding for your own retirement. We're going to give you back the income tax that you've already paid. So for instance, if you are a basic rate taxpayer, so that's anyone earning like roughly less than £50,000, for every £80 that you put into a pension, it automatically gets turned into £100. So that is an immediate 25% return. And what it is the government giving you back that tax that you've already paid on it, right? That is what tax relief is. Now, an even bigger, huge, underrated thing around pensions as well is that if you're a member of your workplace scheme, which you absolutely should be, by the way, many employers will what's called match your contributions, meaning that when you put in, they put in money as well to match it. It is literally free money. So remember, look, the key thing here is it's not how much your money grows that matters. I've seen this time and time again. It is how much of that growth that you actually end up keeping. Now, the fourth element is giving every pound a job. This is my absolute favorite phrase. All of my friends, all of my clients, all my family know I go on about this all the time. It's my absolute favorite saying. And here's why. So what I found over the years is that this is where I see people massively overthink things, right? They either keep everything in cash, because they're afraid of investing, or they throw everything into investments without considering when they might need that money. I blame TikTok for this, but let me tell you a story. So I had this young couple that came to me and they were super excited about investing. They had £30,000 saved and they wanted to make it work harder, right? The classic. We've all seen them on Instagram, TikTok, about how investing can make you rich. Anyway, I digress. After a bit more talking and finding out what it is exactly they wanted to achieve, it emerged that they were planning to use this slice of money for a house deposit in 18 months' time. And I had this horrible moment because I had to explain to them that investing was actually the complete wrong move, the complete opposite of what they should be doing with their money. The reality is this, right? If you need your money within, say, 3 to 5 years, so you need to access that money within that time period, investing in stocks and shares is generally too risky for that, okay? Markets can go down for long periods of time before they go back up again. And the worst possible outcome is that they go down and you have to sell at a loss when that market is down. That is the worst utilization of investments ever. So look, give your money a job, understand where it's going. If you need that money in less than 3 years, just keep it in cash. Maybe a fixed income, fixed rate bond, or even premium bonds, right? That's a pretty good shout. Money that you can put away for, say, 5 years plus, that is suitable money to be invested, okay? So the job of any of that money is to grow over the long period of time. Money that you might need, I would say between 3 and 5 years, this is kind of based on judgment call, right? Based on your risk tolerance and how you feel about money and investing and the markets in general. So look, before you worry about any fancy investment strategy that you've seen on TikTok, right? First, divide your money into those 3 simple buckets: short term, medium term, longer term. This, honestly, simple step prevents what I have seen huge mistakes over my career. And just doing this gives you way more shape and structure to your money management. Okay, now we come to the point where people honestly overthink this to death, right? We just spoke about TikTok and overcomplicated strategies, but here is actually how to invest your money for the long term. And the best trick that I've seen for this is that I always try to tell people to embrace boring, okay? The financial industry makes billions trying to convince you that successful investing is complex, right? That you need to pick the winning stocks, find the next Tesla, time the market, get in low, buy low, sell high, find the next best cryptocurrency, right? It is all, listen to me now, it is all complete nonsense. I promise you that the people who try to pick winning stocks or try to be clever often, in fact, I'm going to say always, end up with worse returns than just the overall stock market. So what if there was a way to own all of the winners in the stock market without having to guess which one is going to be the next Apple, next Tesla, next Microsoft? That is exactly what index investing is. So index fund investing basically just means putting your money into funds that track the kind of entire market rather than betting on any individual one or a few companies. What you're essentially doing is betting on the whole economy, the whole asset class of stocks gradually growing over time, just having gradual progress. And if you've done any research into investing at all, you will know that the evidence sort of overwhelmingly shows that the simplest approach works best. A low cost global index fund that just gives you a slice of basically every single company in the world. This approach has 3 massive advantages, okay? First up, diversification, right? You're not betting on any individual companies or sectors. Next, low cost. You are not paying high fees that will silently erode your returns over time. And lastly, simplicity. You can just set it up once and let it work for years. You don't have to make any other decisions. And look, the key with all this sort of stuff is setting up regular monthly investments. Ideally, like we said, automated on payday into a global index fund within your ISA or within your pension. Then the hardest part, do nothing and just let it do its job. Okay, so the final and quite possibly most important step of this whole thing is staying the course, especially when markets get rocky, right? This catches people out all the time. This is where something called pound cost averaging becomes potentially the greatest secret weapon of finance. So I want you to imagine that you're going shopping for, let's say, I don't know, a chocolate bar, right? You go to the shop. Some weeks it costs £2, other weeks it's on sale for £1, and occasionally it kind of jumps to £3, let's say. So shopper A tries to predict when the price will be lowest and buys all of their chocolate for 1 year in one go. Now, if they guess wrong and buy at, say, £3, they are stuck paying that highest price. And shopper B essentially buys the same amount every single week, regardless of price, okay? So what that means is some weeks they get more chocolate for their money, some weeks they get less. And that is exactly how pound cost averaging works when it comes to investing, okay? By investing the same amount of money regularly, consistently, regardless of what the market is doing, you end up naturally buying more shares when they're cheaper and fewer when they're expensive. So for example, if you invest £100 a month into something that has a share price of £10, let's say, you're obviously going to get 10 shares. If the price drops to, say, £5 and you invest another £100, you're going to get 20 shares, right? So now you've invested £200 total and own 30 shares, making your average cost around £6.67 per share. Okay, so this is this phenomena of averaging down. The beauty of this approach is that it removes all of the emotional element from investing, right? You don't have to worry about, is now a good time to invest? You just stick to regular schedules of payments and contributions, regardless of headlines or news or whatever the market is doing. So everything that I've just told you about this simple set and forget money building strategy is honestly super powerful, and it's probably all you're ever going to need. But here's the truth. There's probably an even bigger financial decision that's taking up your mind right now. Should you pay off your mortgage or put money into investments? And that is why you need to watch this video here, because I have seen time and time again that people get themselves into a position where they are house rich and cash poor. And trust me, that is not a space that you want to be in. So let's sort it out once and for all. Click here, give it a watch, and I'll see you there.